Hey, what's happening, folks? We are here today to talk about the NBA DFS slate. This is the DFS 5-pack. I'm Ryan, that's Matt. Most of you guys know that by now. If you don't, you should press that red button that says subscribe and get to know us because we love talking daily fantasy sports. We got a customer who, I'm not saying it's because of us, but won a lot of money last night. So a big shout out to Ben. That's a great day, man. Matt was just saying how jealous he was. And while I didn't say it, I am as well.
Yeah, what a night, man. We talk all the time, and I was happy for you last night going into that last game. You had an amazing lineup, so congrats, brother. You deserve it, and hopefully all of us can get a day like that at some point.
It's going to be tough because most of us don't play in contests big enough to win that kind of money. So again, a little extreme jealousy over here, but congratulations, bud.
Yes, sir.
All right. Before we roll into today's NBA DFS picks, the guys over at Overlay want me to continue to bring up the Slump Buster Challenge because it is something unique that they offer that you're not going to find through other websites. Specifically, what the Slump Buster Challenge is, let's just pick out this $22 progressive jackpot game for MLB. Let's just say that you enter this thing 20 times over 1 month. It doesn't need to be 20 straight days or anything like that. And you just never place in the top 10%. You get a complete refund of all those buy-ins back from Overlay, which is something unique to this website. You're not going to find that through other people. If you haven't been playing on Overlay yet, go check it out, guys. It's overlaydfs.com. Very easy to remember. Otherwise, their Twitter profile is in the description section below. We can no longer share links because of YouTube rules, but you can get over there real easily that way.
Let's get this.
All right, guys. Before we even get into today's plays, this is a tough slate, and it's a lot even more difficult than the last couple slates because there isn't any team on this slate who is truly motivated to win this game. At least yesterday, we had Damian Lillard, who just made all the sense in the world, right? I was actually shocked he wasn't even higher owned. I felt he'd be close to 100% because it was the one game where you knew they had to win. We don't have anybody on today's slate that really needs to win. So I feel like a lot of people's minutes will be tempered. Expectations should be a lot lower on some of these guys. You're going to have some great cheap plays as a lot of these official, sits come out today. It is a mess. So if you can't pay attention, it's not a bad day to play very light or bow out completely because things are going to get weird, even weirder today, in my opinion.
I agree. Even yesterday, you've talked a bunch about Devin Booker. He is not nearly as good of a fantasy player as Russell Westbrook. But he was a ton better yesterday at much lower ownership because his team needed a win. He wasn't even good in the first half.
He was terrible in the first quarter. He was passive.
Yeah, finished with 60 DK points. And a lot of that was because that team needed to win. So I'm with you, man. I know we've talked about it the past couple of days, but I really think we're getting to the point now when you start to have no teams that are playing for anything, where leaving money on the table is more than viable in tournaments.
Sure. I almost put that as the top bullet point on the front page. I'm with you 100% on that one. Totally agree. It's not a bad strategy today at all. And I will tell you that almost every pick I have up today, reserve a little right to make some changes on this one. And that's just for you guys' benefit, not trying to make excuses early on, just letting you guys know that it's going to get weird today. And it's going to continue to get weirder. I'm pretty confident Indiana's going to sit almost everybody. And that's just the start of a few things to come. So pay attention. Sits will be coming quite often, and I still don't think the DFS world as a whole knows how to adjust to some of the common sense angles of NBA at the end of the year. And that is when guys don't have anything to play for, they don't play their normal minutes. I told you yesterday, I wanted to fade Russell Westbrook. I don't have the kind of balls. I don't play DFS that way where I have the balls to do something like that. And because he was almost 100% owned, I was scared not to play him. But, teams have weird motivations right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, guys that don't get a lot of run, this is their time to shine.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start out with Jimmy Butler right here. And again, I want to make sure that I reiterate this 100 times for people because, again, I'm not trying to make excuses. I want you guys to know with complete transparency where we're coming from, what we think, and the fact that this is so far from being an exact science. We all know DFS is never an exact science, but even less so right now. Having spent a while looking through the slate this morning and just trying to use my gut feeling, intuition, nothing more than that, because he missed a bunch of games, I think Jimmy Butler, out of all the big money, good NBA players going today, has a better opportunity to play more minutes than a lot of the other guys out there. And that is something that I am banking on right now. We talked about how Chris Paul was like 40% owned the other day, even though, through members only videos, we had talked about, we didn't think he'd play much more than 20 minutes. And that's about what they had him out there for. I feel better about Butler playing, 30-ish because he missed those games. They just want to make sure you get a little more run in him and get him ready for the playoffs. The Heat are going to have a battle in round one. I was talking about a coworker of mine last night about this. Like, one thing that the Bucks have going for them right now is they get kind of a gimme series in round one. There aren't a lot of those available to all the other teams in the NBA right now. Really, only the top 2 seeds in the East. Miami's got a battle coming up, and you want to make sure Jimmy Buckets is ready. He missed like 3 games, so I feel good about him playing more minutes than most of the other high-priced guys. But it's just a theory. I could be 1,000% wrong on this.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is, I don't know. We don't know. He's got a lot of the same question marks that everyone else does on this slate because there is no incentive. There's no motivation to play him monster minutes. And I don't even think you think he's going to play monster minutes. But, they want to get him feeling right, feeling, comfortable going into the playoffs. I mean, yeah, he makes sense here. He's still affordable at 7,800. He does a lot of things, so he's not like scoring dependent. You got to spend your money somewhere too. So I get it.
Yeah, and I feel just more comfortable with him than some other big money players, and that it's nothing more than that, right? Like, we know Butler is a pretty consistent player, but I need my guys to be out there.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You talked about how, DFS is never an exact science. One reason that you love NBA DFS and most people love NBA DFS is because of its predictability. It's easily the most predictable of any sport. It's not predictable right now, which makes me like it for tournaments. But it's so unpredictable that even someone like me, it's a crapshoot. It's a guessing game. I like guessing games, so I'm cool with it. But you just don't really know what you're going to get.
That's why you love baseball, right? Is like, because if you can find that 2 home run guy or fade the chalky pitcher who gets blown up, it's such a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And on slates like this, there's so many. I think what you said it best. People do not know how to adjust to the late season NBA guys, not playing their full minutes, and that's where the edge is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I was a 100 lineup enter kind of guy like yesterday, and I stuck more to GPPs, I probably would have faded Westbrook a lot. But again, because it's a cash game player, I don't have the balls to do that, knowing he was, darn near 90% owned, and his ability to absolutely blow up in a game like that. But it's tough, and we're going to get into another guy here. So again, it's far from an exact science. In fact, I'll just shut up about that one right now and kind of move on down the list because I want to talk about James Harden right now. A little different than Russ in the essence that, like, I think we all know James Harden loves his numbers, right? Like, he's big on that. D'Antoni's pretty good about letting him run out there. And we are going to end up with a plethora of money today because as soon as these official sits and, fake injuries start coming out, like, you're going to be able to spend up. I want to get what your thoughts are on Harden over here. I think Harden comes out early today. Again, what I expect to be a bunch of scrubby Indiana players, has himself like a real big first half, maybe like a big early portion of the third quarter, and then maybe he's not playing much after that. But because we're going to have money, because there's going to be like a ton of like really cheap guys available to us, I'll still take 25, 30 minutes of Harden versus, almost anybody else.
It's so interesting, man, because this is the exact situation that I was facing last night on the late slate. I played a lineup in the NBA late slate last night because I wanted to watch those last 2 games. I don't often do that, but I was like, why not? And Giannis was on.
But you're a degenerate.
Yeah, well, that's – I mean, we didn't even need to say that, right?
We all are.
Yeah, so I'm not even kidding you. I didn't even ask you because I know you were working. I didn't want to, like, this would have just – you would have laughed. But I seriously couldn't decide whether I wanted to play Giannis or Jackson Hayes. Not points per dollar, but I didn't know which one I wanted to play because – I had no confidence that Giannis was going to play any semblance of a full amount of minutes. Now, ultimately, I went with Giannis, and I think he was better than Hayes anyways, and obviously would have been a lot better if he hadn't gotten kicked out. But I think it's the same type of questions today. I don't know. I don't have a correct answer for you. I feel better about Harden than I do Russ yesterday.
Yeah,
and I think that he probably gets a little bit less love because of what Russ did yesterday. However, your point that you just have money to spend, he's going to be crazy popular. So I can get on board with a fade in tournaments strictly because we've seen it the past 2 days. Tournament winners fade these crazy chalky guys. And right now is the time to do it in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, again, I do not think James Harden is like this lock for monster points. Usually when Russ is out, you just play James Harden and forget about it.
Yes.
But I'm with you in the sense that as much as I didn't like Russ yesterday and couldn't get away from him, I like Harden more today. And in cash games specifically, I can't get away from him. But, you brought up the idea of leaving money on the table in tournaments today. That's almost never smart in NBA. But if there's ever a time for it, today could be it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there could be tournament winning lineups and only spend $45K today.
For sure. I mean, you're looking, we talked about it before the show. Kyle O'Quinn outscored Russell Westbrook yesterday. Frank Mason outscored Russell Westbrook yesterday. You're going to see that because guys aren't playing nearly their full amount of minutes. Even Luka last night, he wasn't great at all.
Yeah, I think he ended up with like 50-ish, right?
Yeah, he ended up with like 50-ish. But in a normal game like that, that's like 130 to 135. He's got 80.
Yeah, something like that. KP was pretty good for them too. So It was nice. And Lillard was insane. And that's like the part that didn't make sense to me yesterday. And I'll keep talking about like that's the difference at the end of the year. If we went back to a regular season game in the middle of the season, that I would never in a million years like Dame Lillard at 10K over Russ Westbrook for less money with no James Harden, right? Like that would be one of the easier decisions we made, but it's different right now because the Blazers need a win, and that's why today kind of sucks. The Spurs, the Suns, and the Blazers and the Grizzlies are the teams left like playing for something, and none of them are on the slate today.
Yeah, it does suck. Man, yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, like it's one thing when you have to guess, 4 times. When you got to guess 8 times, it gets tough.
I will say though, we talked about Dame about how like he's not a 10K player, and normally he's not, but man, he is playing like a 10K player in the bubble.
Right, and again, I'm also not a big narrative guy, but after sniping on, I think it was Twitter with Paul George and Beverly and calling them boys chumps, like he looks a little extra motivated. He's got every reason to be out there playing almost every minute of every single game. They need the dub. And again, he's a little pissed off right now. He's a little salty, and he's not a guy that shies away from something like that.
And also, like, what helps them a lot, we haven't even touched on this too much, like, they're not great defensively. They're better with Nurkic, but they're far from great.
Yeah, it's a much deeper team right now. I mean, Melo looks like a reinvigorated player, not great defensively. But now that you move Whiteside to the bench for 15, 20 minutes a game, now you don't ask him to be like a corner piece. You ask him to be like a bench guy. He's a great backup center.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
So, all right, let's shift over to the Clippers in Denver and talk about a guy in Zubac. However you pronounce his last name exactly, Zubac, whatever. I think he's somebody you can look at today, and because he's in the mid-tier, I'm assuming he'll get not owned today. So the big thing that I like here, and again, I will reiterate, every pick we have up today is a little bit subject to change. I don't think he gets much love. He's been doing real good damage lately, playing mid-20s minutes, and because he's not much of a big minutes guy, like he's someone who's likely not to get like a cut to his minutes today. Like you're not saving Zubac for the playoffs because he's played too many minutes. If anything, you're like, let's get this kid more exposure because I don't know when we're going to need him in the playoffs. We got Montrezl Harrell coming back soon, but he's not back there yet. You're going to have extra money. So maybe you just play Zubac over like a 3K guy you're guessing with if you have the extra money. I feel pretty safe with him going out there today, getting you the 25 to 30 he's been doing in the bubble every single day. It's not great value per dollar, but he's one of the few guys that I feel pretty predictable with what he will offer you today.
Yeah, I agree with it. He's been good in the bubble. He is pretty good. He's a good DFS player because he does what we talk about. Yeah. He walks into points and rebounds because he's big.
Yeah, and he's not untalented. He's not a great defensive center, but kind of like we were talking about with Brandon Crawford on the baseball video yesterday, they don't really reward, defensive prowess on the DraftKings website. I know you get points for blocks or steals, but there are people who get blocks and steals who aren't great defenders. It's kind of like guys who get interceptions in football, right? Who the ball's coming at them because they're not that good.
Yeah, exactly.
So, again, Zubac is far from a must. Center isn't overly strong right now, but as the day progresses, things might change. But I wanted to throw out somebody who I felt like would probably go under the radar and under own because people are going to be playing for insane upside. There is something to be said for one or two guys in your lineup that are going to be predictable, and I expect him to be more predictable than most of the field today.
There's also something to be said for the mid-tier, man. Like, it's difficult to get there on days like this because the value is so real. But, like, it doesn't mean the mid-tier can't get there either. I'm with you.
All right, next up. So let's talk about TJ McConnell in the Indiana Pacers. So I brought him up like a week ago, and he kind of burnt me because things changed, and he didn't play as many minutes as I expected because I forget who was in. Maybe it was Brogdon or something. But Indiana is already listed TJ Warren is out, and then Victor, Brogdon, and Miles Turner are all listed as questionable. I could be wrong, but I fully anticipate Indiana going, full scrub today, and most of these big guys not playing. So if you can give me 25, 30 minutes of TJ McConnell, which would seem, likely logical with no Victor Oladipo, no TJ Warren, and no Malcolm Brogdon. Turner doesn't have much of an effect on that, but, him out there can't hurt. I fully expect McConnell to go in there and be his fundamentally sound, high assist, high motor type of player. You're really left with him and Aaron Holiday just handling the ball for the vast majority of the game between those two. In which case, I think at 3,500, he gives you every opportunity to 10x on this price, assuming that these guys don't play. If Victor and Brogdon and Turner all play, run away from this one.
For sure. I mean, this is like the age-old dilemma for us. Like, we want to wait until we know about the news, but we also want to have this video come out. So we're, as of now, I'm with you. I don't think those guys play. Why would they play? They're not playing for anything. That also makes me more worried about Harden. The more dudes out for Indiana, the more I'm worried about Harden because, he loves his numbers, but I just don't see him, playing 30 minutes, putting up numbers on TJ McConnell and Alize Johnson. I don't know. I just maybe, but it gives me
We've seen this with Harden, though, before, right? Where, he knows he's only playing the first half and the third quarter, and he just balls out. None of this getting his teammates involved. He just goes for it.
We saw it with Giannis last night. Giannis was pretty damn good in the first quarter. I mean, he had 25 DK points or something. He just got ejected. So I see that for sure. I get that, and I think it's hard to get away from Harden because of that. As far as McConnell goes, I mean, we like this kid. He's 3,500. If those guys are out, he can easily 10x here. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to get you 60. He's kind of in that Austin Rivers mold. So, if he does, dress, but I doubt he does.
Yeah, I still need to get access to one. I don't have one of those lying around. All right. Okay, that's how we see today, guys. A lot of this is subject to change. For all I know, there's been updates since we started this, but it's going to get a little nuts today. Make sure you can pay attention, or it's not a bad day to save your money.
Mm-hmm.
We got playoffs coming up, which means time to win some GPPs.
Plus MLB.